Okay? And the idea is, if the entire world is forced to buy weapons and resources from you, and you can lend money to them to do that, then you get rid of the $39 trillion debt. Okay? So I'm not saying that this strategy will work, but I'm saying this is how they approach it. All right. Now, something that is really important for us to understand is that a grand strategy, it is based on a culture of your society. Okay? Grand strategy is not something that you just make up. Grand strategy is an expression, a manifestation of your political system and your cultural system. And we can understand the cultural system through the books that are read in society, okay? So this is Western civilization right here. So these are 4 representative books of Anglo-American civilization. The first is Paradise Lost by John Milton, okay? And Paradise Lost is very important because it celebrates individual achievement. So Paradise Lost is about why Adam and Eve disobeyed God. And the argument of Paradise Lost is that Adam and Eve disobeyed God because they wanted godhood, okay? Because of their pride. And the thing about Paradise Lost is that when you read it, and we'll read a part of it together, you recognize that pride is a good thing because it allows us to approach godhood, okay? So it's not bad to want to be God. In fact, it's a good thing because it's what allows for progress. And Hamlet by Shakespeare is a book that celebrates individuality, individual reflection. Goethe's Faust is a book in which a scholar by the name of Faust, he makes a deal with the devil because he has an insatiable appetite for knowledge. And that's a good thing, okay? He's trying to achieve godhood himself. And this is the idea of Faustian. So Western civilization, especially Anglo-American civilization, is fundamentally Faustian. It's always about achievement. And it's insatiable achievement. And the last book I want to emphasize is The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, which celebrates individualism. Okay? It celebrates individual achievement. So, to get a sense of the essence of Anglo-American culture, I'm going to read to you a passage from Paradise Lost. And this is where Satan, disguised as a snake, is trying to convince Eve to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge, okay? And this is his argument to her. Why then was this forbid? Why did God tell you not to eat from the tree of knowledge? Why but to awe? Why but to keep ye low and ignorant, his worshipper? He knows that in the day ye eat thereof, your eyes that seem so clear, yet are but dim, shall perfectly be then open and cleared, and ye shall be as gods, knowing both good and evil as they know. Okay? So this is why God refuses to let us eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because if we can learn for ourselves, we can be like God. And God created us to be his slaves and his servants. Okay? That ye shall be as God, since I as man, eternal man, is but a proportion meet. I of brute human, ye of human gods. Okay? So what he's saying is like, think of this. I'm a snake. And once I eat that fruit, I'm able to be like you. I can speak as well. Now, if you as a human eat that fruit, you'll be a god then. So ye shall die perhaps by putting off human, to put on gods, death to be wished, though threatened, which no worse than this can bring. And what are gods that men may not become as they participate in godlike food? What prevents men from becoming gods? Shouldn't that be a good thing, to be ambitious? The gods are first, and that advantage used on our belief that all from them proceeds. Okay? So this is what he's saying. He's saying like, no, anyone can become a god. I'm a snake, and if I can become human, then humans can become gods as well. But the problem with gods is that they came first, and therefore they want to maintain the monopoly over power. And that's why they're trying to keep us ignorant. So we have a responsibility to be ambitious, to rebel. Okay? To rebel. Rebellion is honorable and just. Okay? And again, this is the ideas that permeate throughout Anglo-American civilization. I question it, for this fair earth I see, warmed by the sun, producing every kind from nothing. If they all things who enclose knowledge of good and evil in this tree, that whoso eats thereof forthwith attains wisdom without their leave. And wherein lies the offense that men should thus attain to know? What can your knowledge hurt them, or this tree impart against his will, if all be his? Or is it envy, and can envy dwell in heavenly breasts? These, and many more causes import your need of this fair fruit. God is humane, reach them, and fairly taste. Okay? If there's a God that tells us we cannot eat the fruit, this cannot be the true God. Because a God, it has to be perfect. It has to be forgiving. It has to be generous. And a God that tells us we cannot do something, that denies us our free will, is a God that is jealous, that is petty, that is power hungry. And therefore we should rebel against this God. A rebellion against a tyrant is honorable and just. Okay? So it's a celebration of individual intellect through rebellion. And this is the basis of Anglo-American civilization, okay? And so Anglo-American civilization is based entirely on individual achievement. All right. Now, Russian civilization is very different. In fact, it's in competition with Anglo-American civilization, okay? So now let's go over to Russia and discuss the Russian system. So the Russian system is an autocracy. And again, there are strengths and weaknesses to any political system. In an autocracy, if one man is in charge, that allows for long-term planning, that allows for direction, that allows for strategy, okay? But the problem with autocracy is that if this man were to die, you would have a succession crisis. So the American strategy to defeat Russia is not to destroy the country, because you cannot do that. Russia has nuclear weapons. The strategy is to make Putin so unpopular that the elite rise up against Putin and create a succession crisis. Okay? Basically to outlast Putin, to destroy his legitimacy. All right, the grand strategy for Russia is something called the Third Rome strategy. All right, I'll discuss this more later on. But the idea of a Third Rome is that Russia is the heir to the Roman Empire. Okay, the first Rome is Rome, second Rome is Constantinople, and the third Rome is Moscow. And there shall be no fourth Rome, meaning that once Moscow achieves the third Rome, that's the end of history. And the idea of the third Rome is for Russia to unify all religious traditions together to defeat the Antichrist system, which is Western, liberal, individual, consumer democracy. Okay? The vectors, the attack vectors for Russia's grand strategy are, of course, Orthodox religion, the religion, then you have the geography of Russia. So Russia encompasses all of Eurasia. And then, of course, you have the artillery. So Russia is basically the world's best land army, and we're seeing that in Ukraine. Okay, and the pawns are soldiers. In other words, Russia is not afraid to lose soldiers on the battlefield. Okay? All right, so this is Russia's third Rome strategy, okay? So Moscow is the center of Third Rome, and as you can see, Russia spreads throughout Europe and throughout Asia. And what Russia is trying to do is it's trying to unite the different religious traditions. So it's trying to unite Greek Orthodoxy with even Orthodoxy. It's trying to work with the Catholic Church, okay? It's trying to work with Israel as well, because Israel is also a religious tradition. Iran is a very important part of this Third Rome strategy. Okay? Iran is a very important partner of Moscow. And in the future, India could also be a partner as well, because India is Hindu. Okay? But the great enemy, the enemy that must be destroyed, is the Anglo-American Empire, so the UK and North America. And the idea is to cause them to go into civil war. And the theory is that because the Anglo-American Empire is so focused on individual achievement, you can actually force them into a civil war by exploiting the selfishness, the egotism of the people, okay? Basically the material greed of their people. So what underpins Moscow's Third Rome strategy are certain texts, okay? So you have Virgil's Aeneid, which focuses on the importance of duty, okay? Duty. Then you have St. Augustine's Confessions. And in his book, he argues that we humans are proud, okay? But whereas John Milton says pride is a good thing, but it allows us to achieve godhood, St. Augustine says that pride is evil. Because pride moves us away from God. It makes us think we're better than God, so it moves us to Satan. Therefore, our life should be a journey into defeating our ego, our selfishness, and our pride, and embracing God, okay? That's something that Dostoevsky talks about in his book, Crime and Punishment. So in the book, Crime and Punishment, the protagonist wants to become a superhuman. He wants to prove he's better than everyone else. And so to do that, he decides to commit murder, okay? He wants to show himself and to others that he is beyond morality, that he is a god. He's not constrained by emotions. And so he kills his landlady, but then afterwards, he feels tremendous regret for what he did. And what saves him is his love for a woman, okay? He submits himself to the power of love. He submits himself to the power of God. And that's what redeems him in the end, okay?